Okay. For those of you, well, I don't think anybody here is new, but if you do have questions, please interrupt me verbally. You can try to do questions in the chat, but I'm on a different setup today. Last week, I usually work from like my sofa, so I have my laptop screen in front of me, and then I have a bigger monitor on wheels that's kind of above the monitor, above the laptop monitor, so I can see questions. I'm at my desk today, so I've got two huge 32-inch curved screens. So I'm looking at my presentation, talking to you, but on this screen is where my Google Meeting is with the chat. So unless I actively look this way at the chat, I'm not going to see you post anything in the chat. I'll try to make a habit of just looking every now and again, but my recommendation is that you verbally interrupt me, and it's totally fine to do so. No question is a bad question. Okay, so let's just quickly review last week. Mentor, who you choose as a mentor is obviously super critical part of your real estate journey if you're newly licensed. This is because only 1 in 8 agents will stay with the industry after 2 years. That's largely due to the fact that they don't even get their first deal until 12 to 18 months in. So your mentor's job is to definitely help you get wins faster and more frequently so that you don't become the 1 in 8 statistic. The way that is accomplished is not by making 100 cold calls a day and saying it's all about relationships. It's accomplished by generating different forms of lead using social media, using outbound marketing campaigns, what we call push marketing and pull marketing. Obviously, you can use things like snail mail and also actual in real life networking events, stuff like that, which we're going to talk about today. A little formatting issue on this slide. In terms of lead generation, I went over the 3 things with you that I use primarily to generate leads, which is getting my Google My Business profile set up, verified, and getting reviews. I showed you how to use market reports and artificial intelligence and Canva to basically bulk create a ton of evergreen posts. You could literally create hundreds of posts in an hour that you can then recycle on your social media channel. And when you make hundreds of posts, it doesn't look like your content's always repeating because you've got a bunch of unique content, right? And then we talked about how to focus growing LinkedIn strategically, making sure that you have a great profile, that it's verbose and detailed. We talked about all the first level connections that you should be adding if you haven't yet. And we talked about, if you want to go next level, you should be investing in a LinkedIn Sales Navigator subscription, which runs about $800 a year. And also look at Linked Helper for LinkedIn marketing automation such as drip campaigns. Okay, so I want to cover 2 areas related to lead gen before we switch over fully to lead conversion. So the first is the Publer demo. So let me just show you. This is how and by the way, there's a video. If you go to day 1, I believe there's a video that shows you this. I think it's called How I Do Marketing or something like that. But I figured I would just show you guys real quick. So, and there's other platforms that do what Publer does. I just like Publer because it's what I've used for years and it's what I know. 1 second. Forgot I'm not logged in here. Hold on, guys. Sorry. I haven't used my actual desktop in a while. Oh, no, that's acting like it's a new account. Hold on a second. Another account.
Is this like Hootsuite?
Yes, actually, very much.
Got it. And you like this one better than Hootsuite?
Yeah, I haven't used Hootsuite in probably a decade.
So this does all platforms.
What's that?
Will it push to all platforms at one time?
Yeah. Mhm. So here we go. So once you've created all of that content using AI, Canva, et cetera, you'll upload your media. And what I do is recommend tagging it, right? So I have certain clips that have baked in audio on them. My clients, and all of these also have captions. So if you open this up, you know, it's basically like what you would post as the text part of the post, the caption, right? So when you're uploading, you want to tag, you know, like if you do like a market insight report for office, right, and you create your post out of that, then I recommend tagging that, you know, office facts or office market trends or whatever tag, you know, means something to you. In my case, I just said office. And then you'll want to add a comment to everything. And then, you know, if you just want to post certain things, right, you can just click, in this case, like I can just show leasing tips and listings if I want. But in this case, what I want to do is I want to post everything. So I'm going to say this, I don't care about holiday posts, join my team, lease listings, military, office quotes, residential agents, and testimonials. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is click add media. Oh, no, sorry, hang on, I'm doing this wrong. Did something change? 1 second. So media. Oh, like that. I think I'm missing a button here. What's the deal? Do it this way. You have to scroll all the way down for it to show everything. Just to make sure. Oh, I know what I'm doing wrong. Yeah, I know. Sorry. I only have to do this every couple of months. So, and all of those are mistagged. I gotta fix that too. Okay, so now that oh gosh, come on. Sorry, I hit the back button on my mouse by mistake. Not this. Oh, this one more time. Okay, and I want to scroll down because it doesn't like load everything unless you do. You can tell by the scroll bar right here how it gets smaller and smaller. I don't know why. If you don't do this, it'll only like load whatever it is you have. Yeah, okay, here we go. All right, so now go back up, and then we'll do a select all. Use media, multiple posts. And I'm having trouble with my Google My Business page posting to it right now. So I'm going to leave this off. Also, I can't post video or audio to GMB. So we're going to leave that off. I'm just going to post to Instagram and LinkedIn. Now, when I added all of those, you know, like when I added, say, client testimonials, it's going to have all of those in a row. I don't want those to show up back to back to back on my feed. So what I'll do up here is I'll go shuffle and hit that about, I don't know, 10 times, however many times you want. And it's just going to shuffle the posts and get them out of order so that they're not the same theme of content in a row, like, you know, like these testimonials, right? There's not like 8 or 10 testimonials in a row. We're dividing up the content and intermingling, like, you know, office tips, leasing tips, you know, whatever, right? And then what I'm going to do is hit submit. I'm going to hit submit. There it goes. And it may tell me that there's some errors. I don't think so. It should be fine with just these 2 accounts. But you can add Facebook. You can add, you know, YouTube, TikTok. I don't know. There's probably about a dozen platforms. I can show you what all they are. This will take it a minute. I don't even know how far out I was already scheduled. So this may end up taking me till Christmas. Usually when I'm doing this, it's enough to get about 2 months worth of posts done. Okay, yeah, so there it goes. So now if I go to my calendar, you can see my posting calendar. It's loading everything in. And let's see how far out this takes me. I'm just looking for when the calendar gets empty. Oh, we're going into the next year. How about that?
But you didn't create these in here. You created Canva and then you uploaded them in here, correct?
Yep. This is all evergreen content that I post. Yeah. So they just get recycled basically. I must have been already really scheduled out here. Hang on. Oh. Shoot. Okay, so I'm scheduled out through the end of February. So I'm not having to do any posting for the next 3 months. Now, what I'll do occasionally, if I see a news article or whatever, I can do a one-off post and just put the link or whatever in there and then post it that way manually, which I often do. But in terms of just stay in front of presence marketing, I'm good until March. See ya. Now, every January, usually I will go in and redo my digital mayor and market trends and get some fresh content in terms of current, making sure that my market trends are current. But, it's going to take, you saw how I do it. It's going to take like an hour. And then Publer, what happens is like when you set up these social accounts, you can set up all kinds of stuff like the posting schedule, right? So this is how many times I'm posting a day. A lot of people will tell you like the magic window for social media is like 10 to 3 a.m. or 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. It is not for decision makers. Decision makers generally have one of two modes where they can be interrupted effectively, and that's in the morning or in the evening. So I still have posts in the middle of the day to accommodate the best practices approach, but you'll notice that I'm very much also posting at 8 a.m. I want to be the first thing that shows up in their feed when they start to work their day. Most of them probably are starting even earlier than this. And then also I'm trying to catch the night owls, right? Also in this, you can add signatures, and what signatures allow you to do is add hashtags. So every time I post, it appends these two handles and all of these hashtags in the caption of every single post that I make. Okay. There's also an option in here to, if you have a blog, it will Publer will auto post the blog for you to your relevant social accounts. I just forgot where that feature is. I can do a video and show it to you guys. It's not really the posting part's the most important part of the thing today. So are there any questions on this before I move on? All right. So I want to talk about, we're still in lead generation just a little bit because I feel like this topic also kind of plays into a little bit of like sales psychology. It's kind of where sales and marketing potentially meet, in terms of personal brand and getting out there and getting noticed and all this sort of thing. So I wanted to put this kind of at the front of this presentation, and then we'll get more into lead conversion. So if you think that when you're going out networking, the goal is to make sure that you know as many people as possible, that's not true. We are literally designing your personal brand, your business brand to attract people and make you seen. So it's about how many people know you, not how many people you know. That's the goal that we're going after with in real life. We're talking about in real life networking or online networking, like if you're meeting in some kind of virtual workshop or something. The best way I have found in real life to get noticed a lot is be in a leadership position and or volunteer on anything that you're involved in. If you're part of the Chamber of Commerce, you should be on the ambassador committee or serving on one of their other committees like education or small business or something like that. If you're a part of a business association, you should take a leadership role, preferably president, where you got a lot of face time, right? And everybody's constantly seeing you talk. If you don't do these things, you're just another person attending a meeting, and you have to work 5 times as hard. When you do this stuff, people start to come to you and talk to you about things. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. But this is just parroting what I just said. If you're in close contact networks like BNI, become the president, yada, yada, yada. I do want to talk quickly about my personal opinion on what we call closed contact networks, BNI. Let's hit network afterward, probably doesn't really belong there. But if you don't know what a closed contact network is, it's a networking group that generally allows one industry per seat. So like in BNI, for example, you would only have one commercial realtor, one residential realtor, one lawyer, so on and so forth. I was a member of BNI when I was in Atlanta and had my IT company. In fact, I used to work for BNI as a director, helping them open up a pilot program called Corporate Connections, which was the same thing as BNI, but they were strictly designed for B2B businesses. You couldn't join if you were B2C, like you couldn't join if you were like a resi realtor, for example. And you had to have a certain amount of net worth and all this other stuff. I actually helped them open up 3 of those chapters in Atlanta. They've all since gone away, but very familiar with BNI, all the teachings, the inner workings, stuff like that. Overall, I like it. When I moved to West Palm Beach and started trying to figure out it, because I had no network here, I was like, how am I going to grow my network? Obviously, I looked at BNI. And I visited a few groups, and what I quickly realized, unlike the IT scenario, is that with BNI or any other close contact network, a commercial real estate agent or business broker is the tip of the spear. You know, you are the well from which all leads are going to flow. Now, the exception of that might be attorneys and CPAs, where maybe someone has looked at a property, they want your help securing it, but they've talked to their attorney first, and the attorney's like, you should get a broker or something like that. But 9 times out of 10, 9.5 times out of 10, you are the tip of the spear, and everything is going downstream from you to all of these professions, and probably several that I haven't missed or haven't mentioned here. And this reminds me, I meant to add this to the slide, but I forgot to. 1 second. I strongly recommend, as a part of your sales process, that you create a web page like this for your website, and that you forge these relationships either by meeting these people at chambers of commerce, business associations, visiting BNI groups, where I recommend maybe you visit BNI groups but don't join. You don't need to spend $800 a year for the right to pass leads to somebody. But you can start collecting resources, right? And so when your clients say, hey, I signed the lease, but now we got stuff to do. I need a certificate of insurance. I need a GC for build out, which means I also need an architect, probably an electrician, right? And so I just send them this page, and I'm like, these are all people that I know, like, and trust that do the thing that you need to do. And I have a Gmail template that will just send them this link. That's it, right? So highly recommend that you create this kind of a page on your website. All my clients love it when they have that. They're like, oh my God, like this has everything. I'm like, yeah, that's the point. Little talk about pet peeves of mine when you're working events. Please do not be the person that walks around trying to hand your business card to anybody, especially before you even talk with them. Not to get gross, but it's like that, taking out the dinner before you eat me, right? Like when we're talking, your goal with your business card is you're supposed to sell your business card. That's the way I look at it, right? So you need to be interesting enough and compelling enough for them to say, hey, you know what? I think I want to get to know this person and talk with them more later. If you haven't sold your business card, they're either A, not interested in you or what you do, or B, you're boring. Part of this also is coming up with a unique selling proposition that is compelling, right? And so a USP is not going to be the things that include the platitudinal language that you're not allowed to do because I forbid it, right? So no most reliable, most dependable crap, right? Like something unique, some differentiator. My differentiator when I'm working with business owners that are buyers, buyer owner operators, and like tenants, is that I'm an entrepreneur too. I actually go out of my way to say that I'm not a realtor. Realtors and real estate agents have a bad rep. I am an entrepreneur like them that happens to have a real estate license. The thing is that I think like them. I'm not commission driven. I will tell them what I honestly think, and from a business perspective, if I were in their shoes and I own their business, and I've owned several, that's my differentiator. Find yours, but you need something. By the way, business cards are so 19th century. Please get yourself a business card app. This one that I use is Blink, BLINQ.me. You set it up on your phone, create a little profile, and then you'll have like a QR code. You just open up the app on the phone. Somebody says, hey, give me your card. If you don't have the card on you, which you probably won't. I forget mine all the time. Then they can just scan this and it adds your contact to their phone, and then we'll prompt them, in the case of Blink anyway, it'll prompt them to send your contact info to me, right? It's all automated. And that way that business card's not ending up, on the floorboard, in a pocket somewhere, in a jacket I'm not going to wear for another month, and, wherever, in the laundry, washed and gross. The only thing I actually use business cards for anymore is like when I'm going to events and there's a raffle. That's when I, to drop those in the bowl. All right. We are now officially exiting the lead generation and going in to lead conversion. All right. So there are 3 types of conversion that we're going to get into. Your spreadsheet on the resources page has all of the different tactics that go under this column that you can use to help with conversion. Some of it has to do with social proof, validity, like review, stuff like that. Some of it's more, what you say, using Upfront contracts. We're going to get into that. But the spreadsheet should have a big list of stuff for you. I think it's around 30 or 40 different tactics. Oh, yeah, here we go. In case you don't know, this is where you get your resources. It's massakergroup.com/bootcamp-resources. The password is transform2026. That'll be available until maybe not December 31st, but probably until Christmas, like the week before Christmas, and then I'll probably remove it.
Can you go back one more time, just so I can cut? Thank you.
I'll probably take this down right before Christmas because I'm going to redo this boot camp in the month of January. Obviously, this is my first one. I've been taking notes on things I need to improve and tweak for the future ones. So just FYI. So if I wouldn't wait till I, think you can come back and get all this stuff. Like you need to download all this stuff now and grab it. Limited time only, right? Create scarcity. So here's the thing. Commercial real estate agents have to be good at 2 things: generating leads and converting the leads. If you are excellent at lead generation, but you can't convert, you're basically like a dog who's been chasing a car and then who finally catches one and you have no idea what to do with it. You got to be good at both. Okay. Now, there's an exception to this rule, and that is going to come to when and if and how you form a team. But that's not for today's discussion. But you as a solo agent, right now, you have to be good at both, okay? So much of what we're going to talk about today in conversion has to do with mindset. And there's another late attendee. Let's see here. Hello. Much of what we're going to discuss today is going to be about psychology of selling, having the right mindset, all that sort of thing. So, this part is huge. Anxiety is cured by competency and control. So many agents, and myself included, when they first start out, are mortified of being seen through, of looking stupid to their client. First of all, if you're starting off with leasing instead of like outright sales, I'm not trying to go straight from the investor. The owner operator of that business probably doesn't have a lot of real estate experience either, so they're probably not going to know, how uneducated or inexperienced you are right out the gate, right? You're still more experienced than them because you went and got a license and you've done, commercial academy training, so you still know more than them, and you should, rest on that. But whenever you have, anxiety, what I tell everybody is luck is when preparedness meets opportunity, right? So being prepared in commercial real estate means ongoing continuing education about, everything, about the different types of assets, about showing people what to do with their money when they sell an asset like DSTs, which we're going to talk about at the end. All of that relates to the first word there, which is competency, right? The more competent you are, the more education and knowledge you have, the less anxiety you're going to have and the less desperate you're going to be, right? If you are struggling with imposter syndrome or looking stupid again, just keep the education going and know that your gut instinct is right. I mentor either almost all or mostly women, and I see this being the biggest issue. My male mentees, maybe back up, My female mentees tend to always understand the assignment, and they have good knowledge, but it's like they don't trust themselves. And the men, I feel like they don't usually study enough, or I'm painting in broad brushstrokes here. The men usually don't study enough. They expect some stuff to be done for them. But the women are hard chargers. Usually what I'm coaching women on in this particular phase is confidence, like especially like in messaging, like, hey, if I send this message this way, do you think it's going to be okay? And I'm like, yeah, just speak directly. I don't want you to be afraid of every little thing in this business. Fail forward, fail often, make some mistakes. No one's going to, sort of you typing something horrific, like, are you stupid? Obviously the square footage is whatever, like obviously don't do that, but be confident in your communication, as long as you're being, nice, right? There's no magic. There are some magic things that you can say that are more in real life, but there's not going to be some kind of, I'm not going to give you a magic piece of grammar or whatever to fix something that's going to completely change the outcome. Just be direct, okay? We're going to talk about the power of emotional intelligence. Read over this for me and tell me if you can tell me what job descriptions or description, could just be one, but it could be multiple. Tell me what kind of job description, what job are we describing here? Anyone?
Negotiator.
Negotiator, okay, I can take that.
Sounds
Could
like
be a
a
doctor.
therapist.
Huh?
I was saying, kind of sounds like like what type of job? Like, I guess like a therapist, maybe. I don't know.
Interesting. Okay. Anyone else? Does that help at all?
This is what we do.
Well, yeah. So there's another job that is completely outside of business that this is synonymous with. And that is a mentalist. It's like a form of magic, right? If you go on YouTube and you search some of the best mentalists in the world and you see like how they do stuff, 90% of what they do is reading body language, reading all of these subconscious cues that you have, that you don't even know you do. Like, I believe it's when you look up and to the left, that means that you're going to the creative side of your brain. So that could be an indicator either that you're lying or that you're just trying to, create something depending on the context of the conversation, right? Arms crossed, can often mean I'm trying to guard myself or protect myself. I'm apprehensive, stuff like that. So that means kind of a gimmicky slide here, but we aren't unlike mentalists that are looking, we're looking for cues, any sort of physical cues, tone, body language, that gives us a strategic advantage in communication, right? If you learn how to read your audience, you're going to be a better communicator. All right, pop quiz.
Our service.
What's that?
Our service.
Our service. Okay.
We don't sell.
Okay.
You're always selling.
Anybody else want to take a stab at this? All right. Well, the people that did answer mostly right for the most part. If you said commercial real estate, or if you thought that, you're dead wrong. And you're like, huh? How do you sell something that you don't own? How do you sell something that your company doesn't make or manufacture? You don't.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, we don't sell commercial real estate. Yeah.
Yeah, we sell, this is what we sell. We sell something that belongs to something else that could potentially be scarce. And we sell peace of mind in the transaction because we're creating, hopefully, win-win relationships. What's so crazy to me, and I had to wrap my own head around this when I started, is, like I had a guy that wanted me to come out and list his family property, which I guess he had converted to a hotel. And dude, this thing was I would say Class C would be nice. And he's like, "Isn't it a great property, this, that, and the other?" And I'm like, for who? More late people. You know? I'm like, for who? Like, I just really, and I wasn't really, deep into like the investment side of anything yet. So I didn't, understand cap rates and cash flow and all that stuff. But it occurred to me after I reflected on that, it's like, having had an IT company for 20 years, I could easily sell my business to anyone because I strongly believe in the product, and the service, because I created it. You don't create, obviously, the buildings that you're trying to sell or to get people to buy, right? Your job is basically is that of a mentalist, is that of a therapist, whoever said that. I think it was Taylor. Your job is to create peace of mind with a buying decision, or be there to empathize with them and say, "Hey, this takes a stronger character type agent." Say, "Hey, you know what? I know you really want this, but I think you're making an emotional decision, and I don't think it's right. I know that you're desperate for the commission, and you're probably not going to say that in the beginning. But if you're playing the long game, playing chess, if you're all about relationships, that conversation will have to happen at some point with some client who's not acting in their own best interest." Get back over here. So, how would you define conversion? The conversion specifically, how would you define it?
Would it be like getting an inquiry from them and then being able to schedule like a meeting with them?
Okay.
I would say a lead is simply a person or a contact that I received from whatever resources, and the conversion is to make this lead a client who is willing and able to work with me and interested in working with me.
That's exactly right. Klaus has it on the head. Okay. Conversion is essentially a process of transformation. You're converting a lead into a prospect. So if you're thinking about this in terms of what we're going to talk about later, which is convert to meeting, convert to agreement, convert to sale. When we go from lead to prospect, and we've qualified them and say, "Hey, they passed the criteria," we're converting the meeting. When we meet with the prospect and we get them to sign some kind of agreement, that is kind of a middle ground, or depending on the situation, a middle ground to them becoming a client, right? If they sign any sort of agency agreement, they become a client. That's already done. If they just say, "Hey, write a contract for this property, I want to buy it," all of that stuff converts them from prospect to client, right? Now, you could argue that if there's no agency agreement in place, that they have you, whatever, and you're going to write a contract, they're still technically a client. I don't want to get into the weeds on this, but you get the point. The two most important tactics that apply to all three types of conversion, meeting, agreement, and sales, are listen more than you talk. I can't stress this enough. And ask a lot of questions and talk less. So basically it's shut up. Shut up and ask. Shut up, and the only talking you should be doing is asking questions. It shouldn't be self-promotion and, "I'm Chad and I have all this amazing skill and talent here, the features and benefits," and no word vomit on anybody, please. If you're talking, you're not learning. You need to be learning everything about their situation and asking probing questions. Now, the reason why I've broken up, and I don't know anybody else that does this, the reason why I've broken up conversion into three elements is because, number one, some agents tend to want to kind of go for the kill, like from the second they get a lead, which is, oftentimes off-putting. There's an exception to that, obviously. If somebody's like, I have a massive hospital bill to pay and I need to sell one of my properties to get liquid like right now. Okay, go for the sale. You don't need to like go super deep into all this. Your job is to help the client get liquid fast. But if we're talking about the nine times out of 10 scenarios, you need to break down into these processes. And if you're a team leader, it's important to understand this too, because this can help you diagnose where breaks are happening in the chain. Especially if you have a CRM, you can be like, okay, well, I'm seeing You should be watching your pipeline, right? And watching the stages. You're saying, okay, I noticed that agent XYZ is getting leads, but I'm not seeing meetings being set, calendar items being set, right? Because that would be as an activity in the CRM. Or I see that this agent has been going to a lot of showings, but I'm not seeing anything in the offer column of the pipeline yet. What's the problem there? Why aren't you getting them to make a move, right? And that's the biggest reason why I like to break these things up, because the strategies and the tactics that you use for each of these can be, they are very different. Okay. So we had to talk about this. When you convert a lead, when you convert to meeting, what you're doing is converting a lead to a prospect. When you convert to an agreement, a prospect then becomes a client. When you close a sale, a client then becomes a lead.
Referral source.
Yep. Hopefully repeat customer and a referral source. So I think I showed you guys last week, everybody should have in their pipeline, if you're using stages, there should be a stage after closing that asks them to submit a GMB review, Google My Business, and also potentially asking them for a referral. The transaction is not technically done insofar as you are concerned until those two things happen every single time. And if they refuse, or if they decide not to do it after you remind them 3 times, then okay, go ahead and close out the opportunity and move on to the next thing in your CRM. There's actually a 4th kind of conversion. Can anybody guess what it is? It's already kind of handled. Remember that conversion is the process of transforming something from one thing to another.
Close.
No, they're already a client at that point. Go the other way.
Another lead.
Well, yeah, so like my neighbor, Larry, for example. I don't know, I don't know what buildings he owns or whatever, but let's just say one day he's, I don't know, scrolling through Facebook and maybe he sees an ad of mine or something. He's like, oh, I didn't know you did commercial real estate, Chad. I think I want to work with you. So it's marketing, right? So you don't start, a lead isn't always a lead, right? You can't look at the whole planet of 8 billion people and say, well, I have 8 billion leads. That's exhausting, right? But marketing is the thing that transforms a potential customer, somebody who may or may not have interest, into an actual viable lead. Just wanted to put that. Any questions? All right. Converting to meeting. This is a big resource here. There's 4 or 5 of these little wall posters. These, what you're seeing here, are wall posters that I actually, when I first started, would tape up to my wall over my monitors. And every time I got a new inbound lead, I would just ask them these questions, right? Now, the trick here is to not like order take. So let's say Taylor, is a client, she calls me and she's like, hey, I need to get office space, right? I'm not going to say, okay, total number of units, what amenities do you want? What telephone services do you like? I'm not going to just rattle stuff off, but these are a list of the questions that you should be asking. And as the conversation evolves, you should know how to jump around these as needed. There's also, I can believe, a finance one, like a financial qualification one. This is just one of like 5. And there probably could be other questions that you could add to this. But for a lot of people, taking something from a lead to a prospect, this stage is very important. The financial qualification part is obvious. Can you afford what it is you're seeking? What is the point of this, of the stuff that you see here on the screen? You're trying to find out if they even know what they want, or if they've considered this, that, and the other, right? If you get a new business owner or somebody who hasn't signed a lot of leases in their lifetime, there's a lot of things that they may not, maybe it's knowledge that they take for granted that they don't think to ask. So you need to ask them these questions. By the way, this is directly attributable to that competency and control in terms of curing anxiety that we were talking about. This makes you look smart, right? You're like, oh, you're asking all the right questions. Like, oh, you need industrial? Okay, what kind of docks? How many? Dock high, ramp? Oh, you don't need an overhead crane, do you? Oh, you do? Okay. You know, and so by you asking these questions, number one, you're not giving them much room to qualify you, which we'll talk about later. You're just letting them talk, and then, you know, if it goes quiet, you just ask the next question. And you're trying to find out, the ultimate goal of what I was trying to get at here also is, as you get to know the market, you're trying to find out also, forget how financially qualified they are, you're trying to find out also if what they even want is possible, right? So I'll give you a great example. I get a lot of calls for IOS, industrial outdoor storage. That kind of a property is generally a unicorn, very expensive. A lot of it has been taken and rezoned for like multifamily development here in Palm Beach, or retail development, whatever. And what's happened since COVID is that, you know, a lot of these landscaping companies, construction companies, stuff like that, who were using IOS lots to store their, you know, vehicle equipment or vehicles, equipment, construction materials, are losing their leases due to development needs, and the pie of IOS available is shrinking, right? And so right out the gate, as we're going down, you know, the list of talking points for, you know, there wouldn't be a lot of questions for IOS, right? Because it's just blank land, paved or not, fenced or not, pretty much. Is there cameras, maybe, whatever. But you can automatically go like, well, okay, do I even want to take this lead on? It may not be, you know, worth my time. If somebody comes to me right now and they're like, I want 5 acres of IOS, I'm going to be like, you know what? I'm not even going to ask any more questions at that point. I'm just going to be like, I'll ask the financial ones, but I'm not going to ask any other questions. I'm just going to be like, yeah, probably not going to happen. But I'll take a quick look for you if you want. And I'll literally stop on the phone, log into CoStar, and just take a look and be like, nope, sorry. Like, bye. This part, this phase is where you, number one, the better you get at it, the more time you save, the more efficient you get. And you start to learn also where your strengths are. And that will just happen organically over time. For me, I would not say that I'm a specialist, but most of the, you know, I've signed multiple office leases in my lifetime because of my business. I just gravitate towards retail and office, like downtown environments. Industrial is also easy enough for me to do, but most of the leads I get, especially from inbound marketing, are office and retail. That's just the way it comes out. This is that's a lot. This is an email template that I send for financial qualification. So there's a couple of different times or ways that I send this depending on the situation. If they are a startup, they're getting sent this before I schedule. I'll send them options, but they're going to get sent this and they have to return it to me before I'm going to go schedule showings. I'm not taking somebody out on a showing that's a startup that doesn't show something, you know, like in the case of leasing, you want to see, usually my rule is usually something between 6 to 10 months of rent in the bank. The reason why is the landlord is going to charge first, last, and 1 month of security deposit, depending on your credit financials, right? If it's a restaurant, he may ask for as much as, you know, 4 and 2. So 4 months of security deposit and then first, last, right? And so at a minimum, we want to see that, you know, there's cash and liquidity in the bank account or line of credit, whatever, that's going to cover operating expenses above and beyond once they pay their initial deposit, you know, first, last 1 month past the lease, right? So I want to make sure that they are flush with cash. Also, I'm looking for perhaps discrepancies in their tax returns relative to company financials, which obviously they wouldn't have if they're a startup. Do you do this with an existing business or somebody who's self-proclaimed? It depends. You know, I can go and look at their website. If it's a retail operation and they've got at least one physical location, obviously you can see how long you've been there, or multiple locations. I'm not going to ask for this right now. I'm going to go ahead and take them on the showings. But you want to send this in the beginning if they're a startup or you feel funky about their ability to pay. if they're solopreneurs, stuff like that. And if you find out that they've got a good corporate presence, multiple locations, all that stuff, then that comes later. This is simply a formality of, okay, we'll do the LOI. Now it's time to, as we file the LOI, you need to make sure you get all this stuff together so that when we go to lease, this is ready to go. Or really, what you want to do, is file this with the LOI, have them prepare this, just to make the transaction go a bit faster, but it doesn't always work out that way. Any questions on this? So remember that qualification is running both ways. You're qualifying them to see if what they want is even feasible, if their budget expectations are realistic, which is usually a big disqualifier for people that are trying to set up in Palm Beach County. They're like, oh my God, why is the rent so expensive? I'm like, Wall Street to the south, I don't know what to tell you. The Ferragamo building on the island of Palm Beach, I just found out the other day, it used to rent for 150 a square foot. Now it's 342. Yeah, that's crazy. So when they're trying to qualify you, it doesn't always happen, but if they do, you need to make sure that you understand the language of commercial real estate. There's resources for that. I have like 500 flashcards that you can study that just constantly run them. Spend 15 minutes a day doing the flashcards until you know everything like the back of your hand. By the way, that app, the Quizlet app, like I did this for like when I studied for my real estate license, my broker license. You can run that app in the car safely. You put it up on your little phone holder, and then there's some settings you need to tweak. One is auto advance. The other is text to speech, and it'll just, read like, what is core factor, or, it'll say something like the purport or the amount of space that's, not considered usable in office, whatever. And, the term is core factor, right? And it'll just cycle through this, and you just listen to it until it all sinks in. Obviously, you should also just be doing it when you're at home, 15 minutes a day. But anytime you're in the car and you got a long drive, put the Quizlet flashcards on. Make sure that you're prepared for common sales objections. I also have a flashcard set that I gave you that handles the top 20 most common sales objections. You should be studying those as well. Remember that you should have a unique selling proposition, a differentiator that doesn't suck, meaning, again, no platitudes, no most reliable, most dependable, blah, 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 blah. Another differentiator that I use and that I tell my team to use is when we're on a listing appointment, I tell them I can get about 150,000 eyeballs on a property within 45 to 60 days of listing. What's great about that is either they'll be impressed or they're like, okay, well, relative to what? And I'm like, well, you tell me. Is the other broker that you're talking to about listing your property not talking metrics with you and ROI and marketing analysis? No. Did they offer to report marketing ROI and say, hey, here's all the stuff that we're doing, and here's, X number of queries that we're getting, here's the showing requests that we got? No, they didn't bring it up either. Oh, well, that's interesting. Well, I mean, we do, if you're interested in that, right? So that's for like a listing appointment. And the way you get 150,000 eyeballs on a property, by the way, is real simple. Number one, you need to grow your network. I have 30,000 connections on LinkedIn, so that's 1/5 of it right there. Obviously, you can push out to Facebook, to Instagram. Obviously, you can do pay-per-click ads, which will do that really fast. But also, you can post to various Facebook and LinkedIn groups. Many of those have 10, 20, 30, 40,000 people. And that's how you get to 1/5. Also, broker blasts, where you create an email list of all these brokers that you want to send stuff to. I mean, that can be another few thousand. Okay. So now we have qualified the client financially and otherwise, and now it's time to actually set the meeting. You're still on the phone, and what you need to do is initiate an upfront contract. Now, this is not a contract in the literal physical sense. It's a sales technique that actually comes from Sandler Sales, which I was a member of. Sandler's a sales coaching franchise that I was a part of for, I don't know, 3-4 years. So I basically just described all this, right? You've qualified them, done the needs analysis, all this other stuff, and then now it's time to do the UNC. So a UFC, not to be confused with MMA, is you're kind of pre-setting all of the conditions. You're maximizing the environment for optimal decision making upon your arrival at the meeting, right? And so, I'm sorry, let me just turn my phone down here. I don't know why this is. Usually, I don't have chirping on here. Hold on. Hi, come on. There we go. Okay. You're trying to set the atmosphere for optimal decision making in your favor by kind of preceding and setting expectations for what the meeting is going to be about and accomplish, if that makes sense. So instead of just saying, a lot of people will do is that instead of just saying, hey, all right, so I need to come out and look at your property for me to get it to list it, take photographs, whatever, when's a good time? And you know, they're going to be like, well, 12. Okay, see you then. No. When we come out, I'm going to look at your property. I want to take photographs. I need to be able to ask you some questions about the property, questions that you may find as a result of doing property research about past transactions. I don't know, permit, maybe you looked up some permits and wanted to find out if those were closed out, lien, whatever, right? So like, hey, I want to talk, you know, my agenda is to look at all of this and to see if we can actually, in the case of a listing, right, to see if we can actually realistically sell your property at the price that you want. And I understand that your agenda is basically to interview me to see if I'm a right fit or see if you think I'm the right person to do that for you. I don't think this is going to take any more than 30 minutes unless you have questions, in which case we should probably budget an hour. And bottom line is, when we finish this meeting, if we're both in agreement on, you know, everything we've discussed, then the next step would be to sign a listing agreement. And that part's very important. It's basically asking for the sale, which many salespeople, for whatever reason, always still forget to do. You're asking for the sale, but you're not asking for it, right? And when you do it this way, what you're doing is you're making this sound like a formality or like a typical process. It's not necessarily selling, right? It's these are the steps that we have to go through to move your property to the finish line and find a buyer. This is a formality. This is the fine print. This is the end user license agreement that everybody scrolls past and clicks, submit without actually reading, what's in the EULA, right? That's what this is. So this actually is a graphic that directly comes from Sandler, but here's an example UFC. It says, hey, I appreciate you taking some time to meet with me to discuss, your listing. You still have 45 minutes. I would not say, do you still have 45 minutes? I would be more direct with that number and be like, it'll be 30 minutes or an hour. Naturally, you have some questions for me, such as whatever. I'll answer that, like, whatever answers you think, or questions you think they might ask. Also, those questions should be loaded to, things that you already know or can answer. Obviously, I too will have some questions for you, such as blank and blank, like, tell me about the past sale of the property. Are there any issues with the property that we need to disclose? Yada, yada, yada. Is it okay for me to ask those? If they say no, in that case, right, you say, well, just so you know, if you're trying to sell your property, we will have to have a property disclosure, a property information sheet, and seller disclosure form. It's on all of our contracts that we provide that. So, we need to discuss that if that's a problem. And does that work for you? Right? They say yes, we agree, and the stage of the meeting is set. Okay. So now, while we're there at the meeting, we need to convert them to an agreement, right? So first, again, can't stress this enough, study your commercial real estate flashcards. You need to understand the differences between usable and rentable square feet. Core and load factor, not so much probably that you need to know, but it's good to know. You need to know all the other 498 terms that are there. And just, again, you need to be able to speak the language competently. When you walk into that meeting, especially if you're a new agent, especially if you are struggling financially, and maybe this meeting is like a make it or break it for you in terms of being able to stay in the business, you need to walk in there like you have $5 million in the bank, which I know can be mentally difficult, but if you don't, clients will smell desperation from a mile away. And you'll start acting and doing stupid things, talking over yourself, and they're going to be like, no, they can see and smell your anxiety. So, deep breaths, breathing exercises, pretend you have 5 million in the bank, and walk in and act like, that you're just there to be a trusted advisor and a friend, right? Any kind of sales objections, there's a flashcard with the 20 different sales objections and how to overcome them. Some other common objections are like, how many deals have you done? Any of those where it's uncomfortable, you should, put it back on that person and be like, well, I'm just curious, why does that matter to you? And then they're going to be like, oh, because I don't want, I've had a bad experience before, and I don't want to go through that again. And to which you say, well, listen, I only have a handful of transactions, but one of the things that I run into often in this business is people that have had a bad experience with a real estate agent, and especially ones that seem to be the more experienced and have had their license longer. So, maybe you should consider somebody who's newer and hungrier, right? Or whatever. Like, that's just one example of how to overcome the objection. Also, if you're part of the team, like, my people from here, from Massaker Group, like, they can use my track record as theirs. We're a team, right? They can say with certainty, even though they've never done it, right? If they go to list a property, they could say, yeah, we can get 150,000 eyeballs on the property within 45 to 60 days because I'm going to show them how to do it, right? So, we're tying this into day 4, which is the power of a team, either being a part of one or starting your own. But there's a lot of synergy that comes from being with a commercial real estate team that you should consider. Obviously, if you feel apprehensive and you are a team, this is a great opportunity for your team leader / mentor to go with you on the deal, and help get it closed. You should also trying to be role playing with your team leader or mentor or amongst other teammates. And you also want to make sure that the client always understands the agreement that they're signing. As a rule of thumb, it's good to have, I don't always do this, but it is good to have that copy of the agreement with you. They don't necessarily have to sign it on the spot. In fact, I prefer they digit-sign it. But what we can do is look at the agreement, right? And it's usually only a few pages. So sometimes they'll just go ahead and read it in front of you. Sometimes they're like, oh, you know what, I'll read it and get back to you. But you're providing them an opportunity to say, hey, look this over and tell me right now if there's anything that's, that we need to address or any questions that you have. And they might, I would say half the time, they'll probably be like, yeah, hold on, let me look it over. And, it's going to be like questions about commission percentage, all this other stuff. If you can close that part verbally, be like, yeah, I don't see any problems here, send it to me for e-sign, then you're done. You got a verbal close, go back, log into SkySlope and send them, or whatever your digital signing platform is, and send them the agreement and get to work. Any questions so far?
All good.
Converting to sale, on the listing side, again, this just comes down to marketing. Also, it just occurred to me, can somebody look on the resources page? I don't think I included the listing process planner, did I?
No.
Okay, I'll add that later today. I apologize. I actually have a, in fact, I can just show it to you. Let's see. As soon as I find my mouse here. Where'd my mouse go? There we go. What was it? Oh, Trello. That's a good thing to log in. Yeah. I lose all my work. Oh no, here we go. Okay. So for those of you not familiar, this is called Trello. It's a Kanban project manager task management system. And this is the way that I do my listings. Let's see. No. And this, I'll walk the clients through this. I'll actually show them like this screen. And this needs to be updated too. Like you can see I have Compass on here, which is my old broker. So I'll get all this updated. But basically, these are all tasks that I do while I'm listing a property. So I show them exactly everything I do. And then some of these are, tasks within tasks, checklists, right? And I walk them through and I say, okay, here's the days 1 through 10 are prep. I don't need that long. Probably 1 through 5. Go live is whatever days, and then spreading the word. I show them the different kind of marketing that I'm doing. And then at the 30-day mark, if we're not getting enough inquiries and we're trying to figure out why, maybe we need to send some A/B, do more A/B testing on the messaging. Maybe it's priced too high, which is common, obviously. We can also try kinetic campaigns like snail mail postcards, all that kind of stuff. And then we talk about an optimization phase, right, which is kind of this and this here. And that's, again, a lot of agents will go online and they'll list the property and then they don't look at the listing again and just wait for leads. If you're a real marketer, which you should be because the lead gen stuff, right, that you learn, you should always be evaluating the efficacy of your marketing and seeing what's working and what's not working, right? And also A/B test always to the extent that you can. Does everybody know what I mean by A/B testing? Everybody not know what that means?
Yep.
So yeah, I'll get you this. But it's a great selling tool because it shows them that you're organized, you're thoughtful. It shows them the process, right? Also, it's very important that if you're trying to convert to sales. So this isn't even actually. Sorry, what I just showed you would be something that you would pitch to convert to meeting, right? Converting to sale. This is like best practices for actually listing the property, which I just basically showed you in the listing process that I have. In the case of buyer tenant, you need to ask a ton of questions and find exceptions to their criteria. Buyers and tenants are notorious DIY people that will move the goalposts on you always. It never fails. I will double check their criteria twice. Oh, okay, you want to be downtown CBD, West Palm Beach, you need office, you need 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. I send them options. They don't like any of them. And then what do? They send me an office that's maybe not quite CBD. It's suburban West Palm Beach and it's 3,000 square feet. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't even look in there. Like, we agreed the criteria was X, right? So you constantly want to be getting back with your client and making sure that the criteria hasn't changed, or if they send you something like that, say, hey, I noticed that you went outside your criteria. Should I expand the net, right? As you're looking for stuff for your buyer or tenant, make sure that you look out for miscategorized listings. Medical office and regular office are often constantly swapped in CoStar. Usually it's more like something's listed as medical office, but it's not. And my definition of medical office, it could be, let me back up. Medical office could mean that it's just zone medical. So like you could do behavioral health, right? But in my mind, medical office is always plumbed examiners, right? And so when I'm looking for medical office, I'm looking for floor plans that show the sink in each, exam, right? So yeah, there's that. Always do it to the best interest of your client, not in the best interest of your commission. To the extent that you can, if you haven't been a business owner before, try to act and think like one. Go back and, the book, or read the book I told you to read last week called Michael Gerber's The E-Myth Revisited. But you need to try to put yourself in their shoes and lead with empathy. So maybe you're out showing retail locations and it wasn't really clear based on the site plan that this unit that you came to look at is kind of tucked into a corner like breezeway, and so you're not going to have a lot of frontage. Instead of just saying, hey, isn't this great, you should be like, you know what, I'm worried about your frontage here. I don't know, how much do you rely on frontage? Now they may say, look, we're more of a destinational place, we don't really need the walk-in traffic. Like, oh, well, if that's the case, then yeah, let's go for it. But if they're relying, walk-in traffic, then they need frontage. They need to let people need to see that they're there, right? But you should always, offer. People are looking for, solid advice, even if that advice is subjective. Like, what do you think about this space in terms of the look or the feel, versus always just the objective content, right? Be the advisor. Also, one of the things that I've included, I believe, in your resources is a landlord lease ROI analysis. This is really helpful when, I'll give you an example. I have a plastic surgeon that we closed a deal on for medical office about a year ago. We were negotiating, and this guy, doctors tend to have, big egos and think they can get, everything they want. And this doctor was going into a franchise, and he was relying on the experiences of other doctors and what their leasing experiences had been in other states. Well, when we started negotiating his lease for this one property, he was asking for like a year of rent abatement and like, I don't know, $80 or $100 a square foot in tenant improvement allowance. And so I was trying to explain to him, without acting like I'm, representing the landlord, which I wasn't. I was representing him, but I'm like, your deal is not going to pencil because it's going to take him over 2 years to get return on investment because you're just asking for so much stuff. Now, granted, it's a 10-year lease. He could do that, but I'm like, no business owner wants to go into a business and wait, to the second or third year to start getting, paid. He's going to have to go in the hole. So like, I talked him down at the end. I think we ended up settling on like 4 or 5 months of abatement. And we got him at $80 a square foot in tenant improvement allowance. But sometimes showing a tenant, like in the case of leasing, the landlord's point of view can help them tamper down their unrealistic expectations. Because inevitably you get people that come in and they just swing for the fences. They'll go like, the asking rent's 40, let's go for 25. I'm like, you're crazy. There's no way. And I'll show them all the market analysis, average time to lease. I said, this is what the landlord's seeing from his listing agent. He knows all he has to do is wait. So you can, throw your lowball offer, but he's probably got other offers in front of him, especially if it's like downtown space, right? Any questions?
That this is not in your resource.
That's not in there either? Okay, I'll add that one too. I basically used that exact spreadsheet that I did for my doctor client, and I just cleared out all the identifying information. So I just forgot to hyperlink it. So I'll do that too. Sorry, guys. When you're working with skeptical, I think I showed you guys this last week. When you're working with skeptical sellers, listing prospects where you're trying to get an off market, you text them like, hey, you want to sell whatever? They'll say like, bring me an offer, or my favorite one is, you guys reach out to me all the time, blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, you don't really have a buyer. Like, I do. I can prove it. And I'll send them a screenshot of this list, or I'll send them, this in an email and be like, hey, can I just show you all the buyers that I'm working with currently? Like, I've got a bunch. And maybe you have another property that we're not even talking about that might fit the criteria of one of these other ones. Either they're going to be kind of jerky and be like, you know what, no, I don't have time, go away. Or they're going to be like, why not? Go ahead and send it. What's it going to hurt, right? How to overcome common CRE objections. This is just the flashcards. Setting the flashcards. By the way, is anybody here experiencing a common sales objection that they'd like to bring up and get help with? Okay.
Not really.
So when you're talking with clients, and this is now we're at the meeting phase, what they think is important, but what they feel is way more important. Is anybody not familiar with DISC? I'm gonna check chat a while. Nothing there. Okay. So DISC is a personality profile tool. There should be a link. I know that link is in there for the day 2 resources for you to go out and get your own profile. When you know what kind of person you are, and then you also have the ability to identify another person's style. And again, everybody kind of has all elements of this in them. We're talking about where you tend to lean into most of the time. Obviously, I can be analytical and precise, but at the end of the day, I am a high D. Sometimes I outgoing, but mostly I'm high D. Right? If you're a high D person, communication has to be concise, has to be brief. Don't use 15 words when 5 will do. Get to the point as fast as possible. A lot of CEO types are high D. The common type for salespeople, obviously, is I. Yeah. Down in the steadiness quadrant, actually, these, they have these reversed. So in most DISC things, conscientiousness would be on the other side and steadiness would be on this side. But so the green are conscientious, the C. These are going to be doctors, engineers, anybody who has a high detail-oriented job role background, etc. So note when you're, I'm working on specializing in medical office. You should note that when you're meeting with these people, especially if you're a high D, whatever meeting time you think you need with them, double it, at least. They're going to ask a lot of questions. They're going to go down rabbit holes, double it. If it's architect, engineer, doctor, any of these high detail type professions, double the lawyer, double the time. If your usual script is, I only need 30 minutes, with these people, you need an hour. Okay? Yep. Is there a question? No? Okay. So there's another kind of funnel, and this funnel is not about moving a lead through the pipeline. This is different. This is where you can really start to get into some Jedi mind trick stuff. When you're talking with a client, you need to get to the root cause of the problem or issue, which is always, without exception, emotional. Without exception. There are no exceptions to this rule. Always, all decisions are made emotionally and then justified logically. If you can get to the pain or whatever the emotion is, and it doesn't always have to be pain. So like in the case of an investor, the emotion that you're trying to ultimately usually get to is, I'm winning. I won something. Right? They need to feel like they won. And the way that you do this is the type of questions that you ask, how you ask them, etc. Right? And so we're going to go through some role-playing exercises. I know we're running down on time, but you need to ask more open-ended questions. And you need, if I teach you one phrase out of anything else that you need to know, and there's another spreadsheet that shows like a whole bunch of commonly used questions that are open and direct that you should be using every time. The best phrase you can ever learn is that first one, tell me more. Hey, I'm coming from New York City and I want to open a retail med spa in West Palm Beach. Oh, tell me more about that. Well, we're a boutique, blah, 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 blah. Okay, what kind of square footage do you need? Well, I don't know, whatever is, up in New York is 1,000, but I think I want something bigger here, like 2,000 square feet. Tell me more about that. Why do you want the extra square footage? Keep digging down. At some point, you're going to encounter some sort of emotion that's driving them to make that decision. When you get there, you own them. I promise. Especially if the issue is a pain one. The fear of missing out, the fear of loss is a much bigger motivation than gaining, right? And so if you've got somebody who's got death, disease, divorce, some other driving factor making them want to sell the property, maybe they're a landlord and they had one of their biggest clients move out, and now they're worried about how they're going to feed their family or whatever, right? Get to that. Build the empathy, build the rapport, look at things from their point of view, and when you get to that point, you've got them. And you do that by asking a lot of the questions that are in that spreadsheet I sent you, using tell me more, a whole bunch. You need to act like a therapist, right? And then there's other things that you can do. Like if you look at the spreadsheet, not all the questions are open. Some of them are more direct. I'm trying to think of an example. So like, are you either this person or that person? Or are you, are you like me or whatever, right? That when you're using those kinds of questions, you're painting up, I guess you could call it like a straw man, right? Where you're saying, you're obviously loading the question, but you're like, hey, if you want to be this guy who's all about winning and he's strategically prepared for growth by getting this whatever space, or, you know, are you going to be the guy over here that plays it safe and then you get ticked off at me 3 years from now because we didn't get you the bigger space that you needed for growth, right? Give them a choice, but the choice should always have like an obvious answer, if that makes sense. There is one thing that will, and in this industry, when you're selling, that will absolutely break your spirit. Do not let this happen. Do not, under any circumstances, get emotionally attached to the deal. I know it is hard when you are starting out. I won't even begin to tell you about, you know, some of the breakdowns I had in the first year while I'm, you know, first year I was in the state, it was COVID. And just trying to get traction on anything felt like, you know, I just felt like I was in quicksand. People are just making business decisions. Don't take it personally. And there's a way actually that really helps to not get emotionally attached to the deal. Because here's what happens. New agents, especially if you land a medium-sized to bigger deal, you're gonna get attached. You're like, oh my God, this is especially like if you're an agent that has a full-time job that's not CRE, like you're like, oh my God, this is the gateway, I can finally leave, right? If you can distance yourself, number one, it makes you a better trusted advisor and keeps you objective. But two, you're just not going to be so browbeaten, and not. If you get emotionally attached, it's going to beat you down and make you not want to go do the other stuff that you need to do to get more deals, which is lead gen, setting more meetings, and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, this is basically saying what I've already said, more or less. Yeah, and the first line there, that's very important. Many deals can die several times before they close. I'll give you a great example of this. I did a $6.5 million office transaction a couple of years ago, a friend of mine. He had a building in West Palm Beach that was 7,000 square feet, and I think his insurance was $11,000 a month. He sold that building, moved into a temporary office space that he leased for a year while we tried to find him something else. We found him a new building that was 11,000 square feet, so bigger, 50% bigger than the 7,000 square foot building that he had. So in his mind, he's like, okay, I was paying $11,000 a month for insurance. So if I'm getting property that's roughly 50% bigger, then I'm going to be paying what, $16,000, $17,000 a month in insurance. His insurance bill when he got that property, because we're in Florida and everything's crazy right now, was $32,000 a month. And he's like, oh my God, I can't do this. There's no way. And he kept shopping different insurance people. He got rid of my guy. He said, well, maybe I can do it this way. And if you're wondering why it went up so much, it has to do with Hurricane Idalia and the other more recent hurricanes. They really jacked up the cost of windstorm coverage, which is what most of it was. And that's where the price increase came from. But this thing was on again, off again, I'm guessing 5 times, until he finally said, I'm just going to do it. It is what it is. And I said, okay, just want to clarify, you know, you're making an emotional decision. And he goes, yeah, I know. I said, okay, well, if you're comfortable with it, then, you know, let's do it. And I drew the paperwork and we bought the property. And he's still there. Beautiful office property with a stunning aquarium in the middle of it, saltwater aquarium that you walk around like a big pillar. But anyways, just because a deal acts like it's dead doesn't mean it's always dead. Sometimes the buyer needs to, you know, get more comfortable with the reality of what happens if the deal were to close, or the seller, whichever, right? The easiest way to not get emotionally attached to any deal is to have more leads than you can handle. This goes right back to lead gen, right? Who's going to be more desperate? Somebody who cold calls 100 calls a day, has, I don't know, 1 to 3 prospects, gets down the line on 1 prospect, and is like just, you know, needing for that to close. Or somebody who, like me, has set up several marketing systems I've got leads coming in from all different sources, and if a transaction doesn't go through, I just go to the next deal. I'm not hitching. That's like the putting all your eggs in one basket, right? If you have more leads sitting there in the queue waiting on you, then who cares? Move on. Maybe the deal needs to die a few times. Maybe somebody needs to change their criteria. The deal, if you get to the phase where you're starting to write offers, the deal, I'm not going to say rarely, I'd say you still have a 2/3 chance of closing something. It just may not be the thing that you originally thought you were going to get, right? So if a deal just falls apart because of due diligence, maybe a phase 1 study went bad, whatever it is, right? Okay, well then we just need to go find something that is like that property, but doesn't have the DD issues, right? There's still a deal. Just because that one thing didn't work, you should find alternatives. The need presumably has not changed, in the case of the buyer or the seller, right? Now, obviously, there's exceptions to that. So, in the case of a seller, I don't know what it would be, but they might have a reason to pull the listing back off the market, right? Whatever, family internal stuff or something like that. But you get the point. Deals are not always dead. If you have more leads than you can handle, it doesn't really matter because you're psychologically buffered and prepared to move on to the next thing without getting all, invested in the big deal that you're working on. Okay, so putting it all together, we want to unearth true motivation. We want to do mirroring. Mirroring is, I don't think I really talked about that, but in the case of DISC, you want to mirror the personality profile that you are talking to. So as a high D, when I go to meet with a doctor, I immediately slow my cadence. I talk slower, and I ask a lot of probing questions. Okay, much slower, and I also lower my voice. If I'm with a high I, I'm just talking to them and talking. I'm just sharing. Like I'll say, hey, I looked at you on LinkedIn. I can't believe how amazing. Like you're the trajectory of your career is just amazing. I'm feeding their ego. And they may even feed mine. I don't know. Depends if they've researched me or not. But you need to try and match the conversational style of the person that you're talking to. Remember always to talk less, ask more questions, etc. Right. So I got a couple of role-playing exercises for you before we wrap up. Who would like to volunteer for this? Anyone?
Sure, why not?
Okay. So Klaus, you're the agent. You're meeting with Marcus and Octavia, who have owned their own bakery for over 20 years. They own the building that the store is located in. They are planning on selling the business and the building. They call you to see, have a discussion with you about listing it. You can tell they sound a little apprehensive on the phone. He talks slowly and deliberately and will ask a lot of clarifying questions. And Octavia is definitely more to the point, and she interrupts him a good bit. So I will be, well, I'll be both. All right, so ring.
So you're calling me, is that?
Yep, I'm calling you.
You're calling me. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, hi, this is Klaus.
Hi, Klaus. My name is Marcus, and we own a bakery in downtown West Palm Beach that we've owned for a long time. And I think it's time for us to potentially look at listing the property, possibly the business.
Okay. Okay, great. How did you find me, Marcus?
Oh, I Googled West Palm Beach commercial real estate agent, and your name popped up in that little Google area where the maps and stuff are.
Oh, great. Well, you cut me a little bit off guard here, I need to say. Let's see. But what caused you to come up that you want to sell the business?
Well, like I said, we've had it for 30 years. I'm thinking it's time to move on.
Okay. What's your plan to do after that? Are you planning to retire?
Yeah, Thinking about it.
Huh? Okay, cool. And what is it? What is it you're looking to achieve now? What would you like to set an appointment with me, or
This is
you have certain questions you want me to answer?
Octavia enters the conversation. She says, "We're not retiring. You always say that. You've been trying to retire for 10 years. You're not going to retire."
Okay.
Right. Keep going. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I'm stuck right now, Chad. I know we looked at the question sheet, which I don't have in front of me, but
Okay. Well, let's break this down. What disc style do you think Marcus is, and what disc style do you think Octavia is? That's the first step. Let's identify the people in the room.
what you said, what type?
Yeah.
Honestly, I have a hard time hearing you. Your audio today is not too great. You said what type, right? Like this
Disc.
type.
What are they?
Okay. So Marcus is probably, I would say he is probably a C type.
Okay.
With some D in it. Octavia is probably a high D.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I don't know that. I'm not sure what you're seeing in Marcus that would indicate high D, unless it was just my own high D-ness punching through and from the real person to the actor. But yeah. I would also have taken S for Marcus. It's kind of hard to. I mean, he's a baker, right? So the job is not necessarily as detail oriented as, say, doctor or engineer. But both C and S types will be, softer spoken and speak more slowly. So I would have taken either one of those.
Right.
Okay. Now you did something very good that we're going to talk about in a bit that I didn't expect you to do, and that is, what are you going to do with the money? I'm continually shocked at people that fail to ask this question whenever they're talking about, getting a building listed for sale. It's like, well, what are you going to do with it? Right? Because there's a lot of reasons to ask that question. The first is, is there another opportunity here that I can help out with? Are they, do we need to 1031 into something? Do they want to buy another business with it? Like, well, what are they doing with it? Right. So that's good enough for that exercise. Let's go to this next one. Anybody want to hop in? Oh, this is actually based on a real life property that I have a commission agreement on. Where's Judy or Taylor? One of y'all pick it up.
I would go ahead.
I was gonna say, this is Taylor. He lives in Hudson, Florida. To form an assemblage. Only 5 remain. Okay, so this is my, I guess, greenness. I'm not familiar with an assemblage.
An assembly? Well, I'll tell you what, since we have you engaged, let's go to the next one. And I'll go back to that one.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So for this one, I guess I would start off, with, he doesn't know what he wants to do with the proceeds, but for marketing, I would probably market the properties for lease and for sale to try and bump up that vacancy, or bump down the vacancy, so it's more of a fuller building. Yeah.
We're role playing here, and I'm Mitch. So
Mitch. Okay. Hey, Mitch, how are you?
Here, I'll start.
Okay.
Hey, I found you on Google. I own a few office buildings in downtown. I'm maybe thinking about selling them. All of them are about 30% vacant, give or take 25 to 30%. Can you help me?
Yeah, absolutely. Where are your office buildings located downtown? What street?
They're all over, but it's in the CBD. So like Clematis, Banyan. I've got one on Datura. Those three streets.
Okay. And after you sell these properties, what are you thinking of doing? Buying more, exiting the investment space? What were your plans with that?
Oh no, may put it in the stock market. I may just try to find something that's a little easier to manage, and without the vacancy issues. Ever since COVID, I've had a really hard time, filling my properties back up and getting them totally occupied, which was never a problem prior to the pandemic.
Okay. Do you own anything else besides these office buildings? Any other sort of real estate?
I do, but they're performing okay. It's just these three office buildings that I'm, wanting to potentially dispose of.
Okay, got it. You could do potentially a 1031 exchange into some of the higher performing assets that you buy more of the higher performing buildings you have. That's always an option. With the properties, what makes you think that the properties are class B or C? Is that just from your own observation, or has someone told you that?
I didn't say that as Mitch. I'm just telling you that the properties are, as an aside, these are class B and C properties.
Okay, got it. So
Go ahead.
In your opinion, Mitch, is there anything that needs to be done to prepare these properties to go on the market?
Yeah, I don't think so. On the tenant side, if we get, people coming in and, we've still got a couple office suites that have like carpet in them, for example, which, I'll throw in, upgrading to vinyl plank, or we can do some polished concrete. I'm just not going to, put any money into that now until we actually have a tenant that's interested in the space. But other than that, there's no, if you're asking me if there's any like, major material defects or deferred maintenance, no, I take care of them. No problem.
Okay, got it. The best way, I guess, for me to really kind of see where they are market-wise would obviously be to kind of come take a look at them. What are your thoughts on meeting at the properties within, what's your schedule like in the next few days?
I don't know. I can probably meet on Friday, I guess.
Okay, perfect. We can meet up Friday. In the meantime, what I'd like to do is grab the addresses, kind of do a little due diligence beforehand and see where they, where they are, kind of what's sold recently, what's going on in that area, and then we can kind of formulate a game plan going from there.
Okay.
So I'll lock you in for 10 a.m. Friday. If that doesn't work, let me know. And we can, what I'll do is I'll send you an email invite. I would ask for his email, and then we can get the ball rolling.
Okay. All right. And scene. So what did she do right and what did she do wrong? Anybody?
I don't know if there is a right or wrong. I probably would have turned it around a little bit. I would have, he wanted an opinion on market value and how to market the properties. I would probably have told him, obviously I need to see the properties to give you a value, and need some more information, and make a marketing plan for you. When can we meet? Number one. And after I set an appointment to meet, I would have gone into directly on the qualifying questions after the fact. of making the appointment to qualify if it's actually worth going there or not.
Yeah, good. Anyone else? So I think Taylor, you're probably somewhere in the range of 60 to 80% there. With the meeting, I was looking for potentially, going more for like the UFC, right? So you're like, okay, Friday, but we didn't talk about what we're actually going to be discussing at the meeting. What my agenda is, what yours is, and what the outcome of the agreement of the meeting will be, which is a signed listing agreement, right?
Right.
So we could have had a little bit better control of the meeting setting part. Also, I would have dug more into the last part of why he's unsure about what to do with the proceeds. My notes that I have for this is that he's feeling very undecisive and pensive, and he's got other things going on, and he's seeking simplicity. The goal here was to get to kind of like the emotion of my life's too complicated, and I'm stressed out, and I need to simplify it, and these properties are driving me nuts, right? And so just kind of digging down and getting a little deeper with him about what's driving his decision to do this, is where I was hoping that this could go. But does everybody understand like what I'm saying with all this?
Yeah.
All right. I want to go back to this one to see if anybody wants to take this one on. Back on. Anybody want to take this one on?
I do. Nobody else wants it.
Sure, go ahead.
So we're sitting in the airplane, and you told me about your parcels. So
Yeah, Klaus, we're on the plane. Hey, my name is Dennis, Aiden. My name is Aiden, and I see that you're a commercial real estate agent. I saw you were looking at properties on your laptop. I've been collecting properties in Hudson, Florida for about 10 plus years so far. I've got like 25 of them. It's pretty cool. I can't believe I'm able to continue to amass these things. And here's the great thing: like I think they're all like pretty much all of them are like a waterfront view. So
okay.
what do you think what do you think I could sell that for?
So let me understand it correctly. So you're collecting those parcels, and you have how many?
I've got 25, and he shows you a little map on his telephone screen, which looks like the map in the picture. I've got 25, and I've got one of them under contract, the big one on the bottom, and I have 3 offers pending. I have offers pending on the top 3 vacant ones. So I've almost got it completely done.
Okay. So the one under contract is you are under contract to buy them. Do I understand it correctly? I just want to make sure I got the right picture here.
I already have the 25. I own those. Those are all closed actions.
Okay. But you want to buy the remaining 5?
No, I want to know. I can handle the offering and the buying of those. What I want help with, what I need help with, is understanding the value of this once the assemblage is complete.
Okay. Now I got it.
I have a vision for this land. I think that we could put some retail mixed use on here. It's waterfront. You can have maybe a couple of boat slips or docks for your yachts. All that great stuff.
Okay. So what was your original thought? Are you thinking about building or just getting the land or the parcels ready as a total development site and sell it like that, or you want to invest money and do it yourself? What is the end goal here?
Well, I think that I would want to sell it, either sell it outright and walk away, or sell it and become like a partner, because I have a really good relationship with the city. They told me they love what I'm doing here, and they love the idea of building, a bit more of an established kind of a retail area in this spot. They really love the idea, and they told me multifamily, like I can build as high as I want, which is crazy.
Right.
So we can get a lot of density. So, I don't know that I have the funds to like fund a project that big, but I wouldn't mind staying on potentially as like a consultant for a group that did want to take this on.
And what would be your best case scenario? Would your best case scenario be just cashing out, or would it be staying in maybe in a joint venture or some kind of partnership?
I wouldn't say that I'm too committed to joint venture staying in, but I think I favor that slightly more than walking away, like 60%, and then the other 40%. If they wanted me to just walk away and not be a part of the deal, I could easily do that too, and it would, whatever. But it'd be kind of cool to stay,
Okay.
project to see it all the way through, but not required.
And if you would sell it out, I think, what would you do with the money? Do you have a future use for it where you could use it in maybe a 1031 or to offset any capital gains?
I'm probably going to go find more land and do it all over again. Yeah.
Okay. So your question right now is, pretty much what the value is and how well it says you should start marketing the property now. How do we find the right buyers? Okay. Do you already have studies about it? What could be built? What the best use is for the property?
Yeah, it's going to be mixed use, retail on the bottom floor, retail and office, and then multifamily.
And you already have numbers about how
We're not
many
gonna-
GRE you could build?
Once we complete the assemblage, we're going to have to do 1 or 2 MPUDs. And then from there, I think once it's packaged that way, we can probably start, looking at selling it to, developers or construction companies or whatever.
Right.
I'm not really sure how all this works. I'm just kind of learning as I go.
Yeah, I think at this point, in order to come up with a value, I think we need to know what the best use is and what's the ratio is going to be, and retail and residential and whatever. If you could build docks, if you get them permitted, would make a big difference. I think the first step would be if I could see some plans and where the location is to get a better idea of what I'm talking about, and then we could go from there. Would you be open to send me some more information on it?
Yeah. Give me your email, and when I land, I'll send you everything I have.
Yeah. So why don't we do that? I'll actually send you an email so that you got my correct email address. And then if you can send me over what you got, then I'll look it over, and from there we could go to the next step, and then we'll see if I'm the person able to help you, or if I can recommend somebody who is better in this field than I am, and we go from there.
Great, thanks. What is Aiden's primary motivation?
His primary motivation, I don't think he has a clear vision what he wants to do. He doesn't have the money to do it himself. I think he would rather sell it, but he doesn't have a clear vision what he wants to do with the money either. I think he said he wants to start all over, but that's difficult.
I want you to zoom out more. There's 2 primary motivators everyone has. One of them makes somebody work a lot harder than the other one. And there's one that's usually more associated with investors. Which motivation?
I don't know. Can't follow.
Winning. Usually the biggest motivator.
Oh, okay.
The negative side of motivation is fear of loss.
Yeah.
Right. And then that's what people usually work hard for because they don't want to be uncomfortable. But the other primary motivator is also winning. He's an investor. He wants to win.
Right.
He wants to say, look what I did. Right. So also consequently, just knowing that, and I probably didn't do a good job acting, but what might you guess is his personality type? Probably an I or D.
I would, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. An I with some D or vice versa.
Now you started getting into some other stuff, which I thought was great. Probably just need some polishing on the messaging, but you're like, okay, what is it permitted to do and all this other stuff. That's the right direction to go. Obviously he needs to do an input and get it all entitled. Once it's entitled, the land will actually, definitely be more valuable than it currently is as the, 25 or ultimately, what would it be, 30 parcels, sold separately. Should he start marketing this property now? What do you think?
No,
Why not?
no, I don't think so. I think you don't have enough information at that point.
Anybody disagree with that?
Can I jump in here for a second?
Yeah.
I would have him wait until he has the complete assemblage,
Mhm.
and then do all the research, make sure that he has the correct FAR. I mean, I know this is a hypothetical, but this looks like a residential place that the city would allow such a high building to go in there.
Yep.
But before marketing the whole thing, I would make sure that he's secured the purchase of all of them, because as soon as he starts marketing, he's going to start letting the other 5 parcels know, oh, this is what I want to do. And then all the residents and everyone, it's going to be fighting it. It's going to be kind of like how Disney did it, where everyone was siloed and everyone was secretive. The other people in the same company didn't know who was buying what and for what reason. So it's just better.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I just think it's better for him to finish having all of the units in order to, not all the units, all the parcels, so that he can sell it all in bulk and it can be marketed that way.
I like everything I've heard, and I think there's cases for both. I can tell you, as the person who has this under a commission agreement, I'm marketing it now because getting entitlements and all those other things takes time. So in my mind, there's no harm in putting this in the ears of land buyers, developers, etc., who maybe want to keep an eye on it, especially since it's waterfront and it's a scarce, type property, right? But I also see y'all's perspectives as well of, waiting for the whole assemblage, to be done. And to your point about like marketing it, I probably could have chosen a better word there. Marketing usually means that we're listing it. Obviously, it's a commission agreement, so it's not listed. It's an off-market property. Totally feel what you're saying on the, if we market it, the people are going to know, what's going on, and then, they're either going to not sell or raise their prices or whatever. 100% correct. I should have asked the question in a more clarifying way. But I can see angles for both sides. But at the end of the day, it's not my real estate, right? I'm merely trying to broker a connection to people who would find it valuable. And whoever's first usually wins. So that would be my mindset in terms of, should I market it now or not? How would I find the right buyer?
Sorry, guys, I got to go.
All right. Yeah. Sorry, we're running out. I should make these things 2 hours long instead of an hour and a half. Sorry.
Fine.
How would I find the right buyer? Anybody?
I would go old school and quite honestly see who's been building big developments in the area and just go to their office directly and go, listen, I have an off-market property. It's X amount of square feet. This is the FAR that's allowed there. Is this something that you guys would be interested in? Be as vague as possible. So like that, you're not, they don't go around you. But yeah, it's just look at who's developing and who owns big chunks of land in the area, and then just go directly to them.
Yeah, I mean, I like the boots on the ground approach. Another way that you can do it, and in my case, this is how I have to do it because I'm in West Palm and this is over near Tampa. I showed you guys about LinkedIn last week and using Linked Helper for direct messaging campaigns. Basically, I just have a campaign that's set to reach out to all GCs and developers, and also any private equity groups that are, have alignment with this kind of purchasing, and just say, hey, I've got this assemblage. It's an hour from Tampa, waterfront. Are you interested? If so, sign this NDA. I give them the link to my online, website NDA that I showed you, and it sends them the information. And basically, I'm blanketing everybody, construction related, developer related, or whatever person, even family offices in Florida, so they can all get access to it. And we got some hits that way. But if I was boots on the ground, I think your strategy is also very viable and a good one. All right, let's wrap up. This is another option in case you don't know that you should research yourself on. I'm not going to go deep into this, but if people are unsure about what they want to do with the proceeds of a sale, there are two options that you could recommend to them. These are options that generally, if they don't know what they're doing or what they want to do with the sale, and you get the vibe that managing the property was primarily the issue and they just want to have a more simpler life and relax, these two options that I'm about to show you are great, because they basically still provide real estate type returns. Well, one of them does specifically, without all of the landlord headache and management, right? So this is going to be really good for older landlords. So there's two kinds of DSTs. There's a Delaware statutory trust and a deferred sales trust. You can 1031 into either one of these. So you're going to go into these really quick. A Delaware statutory trust, which if you have more questions on this, I can get you with the guy that I use for this. Name's Tommy. Is basically a fractional ownership of real estate. So somebody else, or it's almost like a cooperative-ish. There's a group that manages the property beginning to end, and then basically you get a rent check proportionate to your share of the building. So if you buy in and you get, let's say, 30% of the building, then you get 30% of the rent revenue, minus some fees, because there's fees that come into managing a Delaware statutory trust. Would you make more money if you had the building, yourself and didn't have to pay the DST management fees? Absolutely. But the idea here is if you're just trying to simplify your life and not have, obligations, this is a very viable option. Deferred sales trust, you can read over this. This is more like you got to get with like a guy that does like retirement plans or Series 6, Series 7. I don't know a lot about it. And I need to fix this slide because I see I've got Delaware statutory trust on the bottom. That's not right. But this table is for deferred sales trusts. It's just another financial instrument that you can 1031 into. I believe it's more like, your gains are like stock market oriented versus real estate related. Okay? We're going to wrap up. I only got like 1 or 2 slides. Next week is day 3. It's going to be how to increase your total number of sales and increase your average commission size. If you like the content today, I would really love it for you to send me a video testimonial. Thank you to Karen and Klaus who did that for me last week. You can email it to me at chad@massakergroup.com. If you don't want to get on video, I'd love for you to maybe write a written review or testimonial for me on my Google My Business page would be perfect. Or on my LinkedIn, I would take that too. I appreciate that. And if you don't like it, I'd love to hear, email me some feedback on, what you think I could have done better or what you didn't like, or if I didn't deliver on something today that you thought I was going to deliver on, I'd love to hear any input. And I'm sorry for running over. I think that's it. That's the last slide. Yeah. So any questions? I've got about 30 minutes until my next meeting. I can hang out and answer whatever questions anybody has.
Thank you so much. This was great. Look forward to seeing the recording.
Thank you as well.
Bye now.
Thank you, Chad.
See you later.